all of our cars and trucks are made in Mexico and Canada. If GM and Ford don't want to pay 20% extra every time something crosses the border, they're going to have to bring manufacturing back to America, which brings in another problem of, okay, is 20% even enough to offset the enormous amount of costs that would be remaking manufacturing plants in America, rehiring American workers? There's going to be a lot of cost accounting involved with that whole entire idea, and they could very well come back and say it's actually cheaper to just pay the tariff like 3 different ways, as we'll see shortly. Well, the cost accounting nerds are just going to be like, you know what? It's actually cheaper to pay 20% on both sides of everything than to actually make a manufacturing plant in America, and then on top of that, hire American workers. So we'll just keep paying this tariff. And then the real entertainment comes in is that if everybody collectively does their cost accounting and they say, well, we've done the cost accounting and it's actually cheaper to just eat that, well, then you're on this fence of like, if you're Donald Trump, you're going to say, well, then if the goal is to bring American manufacturing back to America, they did the accounting and it's still not 20% tariffs still aren't enough. Well, then you raise it more. So that's the entertainment portion of all this right now is, how will this work out really? And is it good or bad? We'll find out, because we'll have to find out. There's also BBC has a really good article. Basically everything I just said, right? He says they'll boot the other part is that when you're collecting tax revenue on all of your imports, his theory is that it will offset needing to tax the American people. I think no matter what, Americans are paying more money. So hopefully, if you're paying 20% more for everything, hopefully you pay less taxes at the end of it, because then it gets super freaking expensive to live. And then they have a very good graphic down here. There's steel imports. It's steel and aluminum. I thought America made a lot of aluminum in-house, but we rely on Canada for a lot of steel. So this is why the car companies are an interesting thing. So, and this is what I was just saying, is that we do make a lot of aluminum in-house, and then we bring everything up to Canada to do some fine-tuning. Then we send it down to Mexico to do some fine-tuning and assemble it, and that's just one small piece of the manufacturing puzzle. But so the tariffs get paid once through here and again through here because Canada has retaliated, and then Mexico hasn't retaliated yet, but then back through here. So before it even gets put into a car engine in Michigan, they're taxed 3 times. So the only way to offset that is to make cars more expensive. And here's like another great graphic here. Delivery trucks all come from Mexico. Insulated wire, I was not ready for this one. Insulated wire is honestly in everything. I don't even know what stock company to get there. Computers, surprisingly a lot from Mexico. But ultimately that's why that's what is being told to us on why we're playing this tariff war game, right? Is that all of these big, huge graphics, in theory, all these companies should return for not wanting to pay this 20% tax, 25% tax. All these companies should return their production back to America, but you have to do the cost accounting. Is it actually worth it to avoid the 25%, the 20% taxes versus building manufacturing plants and hiring American workers. That tariff number might need to go up before it is worth it to bring production back to America, which is what, and at the end of the day, really the consumers are the ones that lose here, because we end up paying and offsetting these costs, even though in theory all the importers could lower costs. The whole point of markets is to be efficient, and you can't get costs any lower. That's why we're a global market leader, or just have global markets. It's supply and demand, product specialization. It's what our economies have been doing for the last 80 years, is specializing. So now we're just kind of, today marks the day where we're done with countries specializing, and we're trying to bring everything back to America, is the overall goal. But and then in theory, so even if all this works and production comes back to America, now your tax levels have plummeted because you've gotten rid of the income tax because of your tariffs. And then on top of that, now all the production is back in America. There's no income tax. So now there's really no source of revenue for the federal government at all if this works, which is even crazier.